Insider sources warn troops are increasingly exposed to danger, describing frontline positions that are vulnerable to sudden strikes and leaving soldiers with little time to react as threats intensify. Hezbollah's missile threat may now reach deep into previously safe areas, raising fears that civilian and military targets across the region could be put at risk by longer-range strikes. Frontline dissent has erupted into open frustration, with some soldiers saying they feel their sacrifices are pointless amid chaotic operations and mounting losses that threaten morale. A senior officer has warned that the campaign could worsen significantly, cautioning that current trends point toward harder fighting ahead and heavier costs for forces and communities alike. A top military voice has called for a tactical withdrawal, arguing that without a change in approach, units risk becoming trapped in increasingly deadly conditions and suffering avoidable casualties. An Israeli reserve colonel has warned that troops operating in southern Lebanon are suffering fatalities while failing to secure clear, lasting gains that would justify the human cost. Colonel Ronen Cohen likened soldiers on the front lines to sitting ducks under constant attack, a vivid comparison meant to highlight their exposed and vulnerable positions. Cohen argued that the continued military presence in southern Lebanon serves little strategic purpose, insisting the deployment no longer produces the security benefits once claimed. He said commanders could accomplish key objectives without keeping ground forces stationed inside Lebanon, advocating for alternatives that reduce frontline exposure. The colonel dismissed official assertions that the deployment effectively shields northern Israeli communities, calling those claims misleading and overstated. Cohen accused political and military leaders of presenting a false picture to the public about the security gains from the ongoing deployment. He warned that Hezbollah's missiles and drones retain the range and capability to strike targets across Israel, meaning ground positions offer limited protection. Cohen acknowledged that Israeli units continue to suffer regular casualties, a steady toll that is eroding morale and raising alarm among the ranks. He concluded that the current campaign is growing increasingly difficult and painful for Israel, urging a reassessment of tactics before costs rise further. Drawing on lessons from past conflicts, the reserve colonel warned that far worse incidents could still unfold if current vulnerabilities remain unaddressed, urging planners to learn from history before catastrophe strikes. He stressed that the military cost being paid now, measured in lives, equipment, and morale, now outweighs any conceivable strategic benefit that the current deployment might produce. Cohen urged Israel to withdraw proactively, arguing that a deliberate pullback is preferable to allowing deteriorating battlefield realities to force a chaotic and more dangerous retreat. His remarks arrive amid intensifying public and political criticism over Israel's continued presence in Lebanon, as lawmakers and media question whether the campaign is delivering its promised results. Hezbollah says it is responding to what it describes as repeated Israeli ceasefire violations, maintaining pressure along the frontier and using those claims to justify continued operations. During recent operations, several Israeli military vehicles were reportedly destroyed, an incident that underscored the lethal risks faced by forces operating near the border. The episode highlighted the ongoing volatility along the Lebanon-Israel front, where clashes and sudden escalations remain a daily reality for troops and civilians alike. That confrontation has reopened a heated domestic debate in Israel over the purpose and effectiveness of the deployment, with critics calling for clearer goals and an exit strategy. According to Haaretz, 36 Israeli officers and soldiers have been killed since the war with Hezbollah escalated, a grim tally that has deepened scrutiny of the campaign's human cost. Those military casualties have accumulated over roughly 3 months of fighting in Lebanon, a sustained period of operations that has steadily raised the stakes and the toll. On June 20th, the IDF announced that Staff Sergeant Ni Ben Ari was killed during combat operations in southern Lebanon. His death marked the 5th reported Israeli military fatality since the ceasefire with Hezbollah came into effect. The announcement followed the deaths of 4 other Israeli soldiers in the same operational theater a day earlier. The latest casualties highlighted the persistent security threats facing Israeli forces along the Lebanon front. Clashes have continued despite diplomatic efforts aimed at preserving and stabilizing the ceasefire agreement. Iran and the US appear prepared to resume negotiations even as tensions remain elevated over the continued closure of the Strait of Hormuz. The diplomatic effort gained urgency after Iran maintained restrictions on traffic through the Strait of Hormuz despite the recent agreement. US Vice President J.D. Vance traveled to Switzerland on June 20th as Washington sought to restart direct engagement with Tehran. An Iranian delegation also arrived in Switzerland as both sides attempted to build on the framework established by the Memorandum of Understanding. Pakistan's Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif and Army Chief Asim Munir are expected to participate as mediators during the talks. The talks are taking place while Iran continues to keep the Strait of Hormuz closed to commercial maritime traffic. Iranian officials linked the closure to alleged ceasefire violations and ongoing Israeli military activity in Lebanon. Tehran has presented the measure as leverage intended to ensure full compliance with the terms of the agreement. A directive cited by Iran International reportedly instructed media outlets to promote a unified national approach on the issue. Editors were reportedly told not to portray Hormuz closure and diplomatic negotiations as contradictory strategies. IRGC-affiliated Tasnim argued that the Strait of Hormuz should remain closed despite the resumption of negotiations. The outlet claimed that reopening the strategic waterway at this stage would amount to a major strategic error for Tehran. Tasnim argued that at least $12 billion in frozen Iranian assets should be released before any reopening takes place. The outlet also called for U.S. waivers permitting Iranian oil exports to be fully implemented before further concessions. Tasnim further insisted that Israel must withdraw from its positions in Lebanon before Hormuz is reopened. The outlet argued that every commitment contained in the Iran-US memorandum must be fulfilled before the waterway is restored to normal operations. Meanwhile, Iran's chief negotiator issued a message ahead of the Switzerland talks, signaling Tehran's position before discussions begin. Mohammed Bagher Ghalibaf said, and I quote, "I consider the innocent children of Minab and all the martyrs of dear Iran to be watching over my every action and behavior at every moment. They see us and expect things of us. God forbid that I should ever bring shame to the innocent martyrs and the people of Iran, and that I should join my companions with a clear conscience. Companions for whose reunion I eagerly await." Unquote.
Looking forward to starting the technical talks with the Iranians, the Pakistanis, and the Qataris. Our understanding is that the Iranians just landed. The Qataris and Pakistanis and some of our technical negotiators are still on the ground. So look, we'll have a couple days of talks. We're going to get this thing kicked off in the right way. There's a lot to discuss, but we're going to go through it all.
Waiting in Lebanon to complete the event the entire process. What do you want to do about that?
Well, Marco and the entire team have been actively managing what's going on in Lebanon, despite the headlines. Things are actually getting better there. Things are calmed down a little bit. It's going to be something we're just going to have to continuously manage to ensure that, Israel and Lebanon are both safe and secure. That's fundamentally the goal of this, is to make the whole region safe and secure. The big problem is that you have somebody will shoot and then somebody will respond, and you kind of have a chicken and egg problem where you just got to stop the shooting for long enough to get the ceasefire to hold. That's what we're going to try to do. We'll keep on working at it, and things have gotten better. Well, I think number one, just getting things set up in the right way and getting the actual structure of the negotiation in place. So the way that we're going to do this is that we're going to have a principal level political leadership at the top, and then obviously the technical team is going to stay on the ground. As much as I might like to stay in what appears to be a beautiful place, I can only be there for a day or two. I think we're hopefully making progress on the nuclear issue, make progress on the Lebanon ceasefire issue. Those are the two big things that I think we're going to be focused on. I'm sure the Iranians are going to have issues they'd like to discuss as well. We'll see you guys on the other side. Thank you.
Meanwhile, Trump warned that the US could impose tolls related to Hormuz transit if a final agreement with Iran is not reached within 60 days. Donald Trump said, and I quote, "There will be no tolls in the Hormuz Strait for 60 days during the ceasefire period. And there will be no tolls after the 60-day period has expired, unless they are imposed by and for the United States of America. Should the deal not be completed, for services rendered as the guardian angel to the countries of the Middle East for purposes of both past, present, and future reimbursement of costs." Unquote. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu is reportedly still working to influence the contours of the final US-Iran agreement, determined to shape its outcome even as the framework moves forward. His efforts have continued despite President Donald Trump already signing a memorandum of understanding with Tehran, signaling that the Israeli leader does not view the interim document as the final word on Iran policy. Under the terms of the memorandum, the agreement has triggered a 60-day negotiation window between Washington and Tehran, during which both sides are expected to hammer out a comprehensive final pact. Netanyahu is said to believe that Iran will ultimately refuse to accept meaningful, enforceable limits on its nuclear program, a conviction that fuels his skepticism and his determination to press for tougher conditions. According to coverage by CNN, the Israeli leader is actively trying to shape the debate inside Washington, D.C. over the emerging deal, seeking to influence how American policymakers and the public perceive its risks and benefits. Reports say the Prime Minister is working through conservative media figures and pro-Israel lawmakers in Congress, leveraging long-standing relationships to amplify criticism and raise doubts about the agreement's terms. Prominent pro-Israel podcaster Mark Levin has denounced the deal as a slush fund for reconstruction, arguing that the financial components risk empowering Tehran rather than constraining it. Netanyahu is also expected to lobby friendly senators directly to voice concerns and push for stricter oversight, using Capitol Hill as an additional line of pressure on the Trump administration as negotiations with Iran continue.